Affinity 3 comes with a powerful set of glitch filters. In this video, I'm going to show you how to go through them, and here is one of the glitch effects applied to an image. This is PC or Mac, and I'm going to go through each of the different filter types in this. So let's remove it. So where's the filter? Just go up here to Pixel and go to Filters, and then you can see down here, go to Distort and Glitch. That's where it is. And you can see I've got a shortcut also added there. Gone for Command or obviously Control G, so you can just do it quickly. Obviously Glitch G, that's the reason. And also I've also created one for the last or previous filter, which I've gone with Command or Control again, L. And here's the actual filter. Let's just go through some of these options now. Let's just go through aberration. That's the first one, distort. And the great thing about this is you can change the strength. Now it only goes up to 100%. Fortunately, for some weird reason, Affinity 3, they've gone for this model where it just stops at 100%. In previous versions, Affinity Photo, etc., in most of the filters, you could extend it beyond that. But now it just seems to be limited to 100. You can also move the origin point. So you can just see you can create a sort of really wobbly sort of effect very quickly just by moving the cursor around to create, say, origin over here or over here, etc. And you can see you can create a variety of different effects just by moving it around. You can also modify the strength, and you can see you can go that way or that way. And you can see as you do it, you go to 0, obviously hardly anything, and push it 100% that way. And you've got red, green and blue. If I go over here, it goes minus, you got blue, red, green. It's done it in the opposite way. And there is a point for that. Let's put it to 100%. You've also got channel ordering as well. In many cases of lots of these types, and you can see there's a lot of different types, but they're all fairly similar. There's some slightly different ones that are say, obviously internally, they've coded it probably with the same obviously filter, and they've just got obviously an if statement, if it's doing this, if it's doing this, if it's this type, do this set of code, and so on. But you've got here the RGB, and most of the filters have got this sort of option if they're like color ones or etc. So green, red, blue, and you can see here green, red, blue. So if you go here again, blue, red, green, you can see blue, red, green. If I go here to red, blue, green, you can see red, blue, green. So there is channel ordering, but many of the filters, it's very hard to tell. To be honest, when you apply it, there's subtle changes, and I really could not tell whether the red's in front of the other one or green, etc. personally. But what you can also do is you can go here, and I'm just going to go to red, green, blue. You can also modify a number of channels. So you can just go to 2. And when you go to 2, you'll notice you lose the blue, because obviously the blue is the last one in that list. So if you don't want it to be used, you just get the one with 2 and set obviously the B then is ignored. And likewise, if you go for green, red and blue, blue will be still ignored, or the green will be ignored, etc. Now, in this case, it just seems odd that you can see a green there, but I guess internally that's how it's processing it. So red, green, blue, and let's number of channels. You got this, and you can see now you got the red there, and let's go to green and blue, red and blue. You can see the green, and also blue. You can see the blue there. That's what it's doing. It's processing it. Number of channels set to 1. Now I'm using an RGB document, a red, green, and blue document. But also, when you use CMYK, it doesn't actually change. I thought it would, but it doesn't. It still says red, green, and blue. But you'll notice the colours look slightly different. Also, grayscale as well. And lab as well as another option. Okay, there's also bidirectional, which is quite nice. And you can see the effect is spread out there. You can see the effect very hard, actually, in this case. Let's just go for red, green, blue. You've got, obviously, there you've got, looks like blue, red, green, to be honest there. But obviously green, red. Oh, I got the right way around. Sometimes when I look at it, it does seem like the result seems a bit odd, but still you can obviously change it. And as you change it, you will get different results here, red, blue and green. Okay. I'm certain it is doing as programmed, and click OK. Well, you've got that. You'll notice I've got shortcuts. Well, the shortcuts, not particularly easy to set. I'm just going to go over here. Now, on PC, I do not know how it's set, but we're here, settings. So go and look for settings or preferences, whatever it is on the PC. Settings. and then go down here to shortcuts. In shortcuts, then go to pixel, and then confusingly go to pixel again. Now you're in the Pixel Studio. I assume that's the studios because that's all the studios there. You can see I've got my studios. This is the studio listing. So it looks like you have separate shortcuts for different studios, which does confuse the issue really, I think. But Pixel, then Pixel again. And in there, I've got all of these. So you can see here, I've got fade here. Obviously you've got that one. That's preset. That's one that comes with Affinity 3. This one I've just set. Now, if you set it to something that's already existing, like this one was, Command L was used, I think, for levels. You have to go for that levels one. I think it's in adjustments. So it's an adjustment. You go down here for adjustments and you probably can find it somewhere down, new adjustments. One of these ones, I think it was levels, somewhere like that. Oh, they're levels. I think that was set for that. Now you can reset it. You can clear all the shortcuts. You can apply the defaults, etc., to put it back if you make a bit of a mess of it. But you can set it, and then that's what it'll use instead of this one. But you have to deselect it first here, otherwise it will give you a warning. So let's just close this. So that is in the settings. Okay, let's do this. Command G and get the next one. The next one is fairly similar. You got offset. So offset here, you got horizontal strength this time and vertical strength. So it's got horizontal and vertical, which is that one you've just got just strength. So now you've got offset, you can go here and you can set it. Now it's again 100%. That's a very subtle move. Depends on obviously the size of the document, though it's a percentage. It shouldn't make any difference, but it's quite, if you do a document when you've only got like 400 by 400, you'll probably notice the impact of that far more than if you've got a document that's 10,000 by 10,000. It's probably slightly different, but percentage wise, I would have thought it would be much the same. But still, you can see it's very subtle. Again, you can move this around, but this time you'll notice instead of moving the origin point, confusingly, it moves the sliders. So be aware, you just have to click. Just click on the document. If you just hover around, it doesn't do anything. So if you just go that, it doesn't move. But if you have to actually hold the mouse down, the actual left, and just click there and then just drag around, you can see the result of it. And you've got exactly the same as here. Green, red, blue. You can see it changes. Exactly the same. If you go through blue, red, green, you get a different result, and so on again. Sometimes you can make a sense of the blue, red, green. Sometimes you look at it and think, that seems a bit confusing, but that's obviously the ordering. And also, again, you can number of channels, you can move it. So you can use, again, just red. You can see the red there. You can go to green and you can see the green there, and so on. So you can see this can be used to modify this and the strength, etc. And again, minus 100 to 100. So you go all the way through for that. Next one, you got shred. And shred's a good one. And you can see it creates squares. It's a pity that there's not other functionality where it can create circular designs, triangular designs would be brilliant. Or maybe other random like shapes. It would be superb. But unfortunately, you just get squares. And you can modify horizontal strength again. And we can see if I put these back to the start point, there's nothing there. So you've got 0, 0. Doesn't matter any difference, obviously, pixel spacing if they're set to 0. Push this up, and then you can see shred. I'm just using horizontal, so it's horizontally cross a shredding effect. And pixel spacing, you can vary this. So let's just put it to about 153. I assume that's 153 pixels, I assume. And that does seem to go up a fair amount, 1024. And obviously, this is one thing that's slightly disturbing with this filter. The result doesn't always seem to match this. So you've got the preview. If you click on it, the likelihood is that that will not be what the result will be. So I'm just going to click on it just to show. You get that. Slightly odd. So it's not, most of the filters, most of them, when you use them, you get the right thing. But shred, I've noticed, doesn't. And some of those ones with lines also have a similar sort of problem. Wave, etc. So just be aware that it's not 100% accurate to what you see in the preview. So move that, or you go vertical strength, and you can see it going down, which creates an interesting effect going down like that. And you can create effects like that. But again, click apply and you get that. It's sort of doubled it, I think. I think personally that's what the result of it is, but it's just odd. And again, you can apply it again. Let's apply the filter again. Just apply it. I'm going to use my Command Control L. So, and you can see then you get that and you get that. And that seems to be as far as it goes when it's cutting it up or shredding it. So let's just go back. But it does create some variation by just changing that. So put it back to that again. Let's bring the panel up. Exactly the same as before. Let's just go down here. Unfortunately, for some weird reason, it doesn't recall which filter you were last using. I think it should, personally. You might want to use shred all the time and not use the other ones. So it would be nice if it reordered, either based on maybe usage or just purely on what the last one you used. Would be great, but unfortunately it doesn't. So shred, you got there, and got that. You got pixel spacing. Again, you can see you can create some very intense line designs. And again, once you've done that, click apply. And again, you can see just subtle change. It seems to double it up a bit. Not certain why. Maybe if you've got a different sized image, might match it. I don't know. I've had other filters like that in other applications that do similar things. Sometimes it just doesn't match exactly thing. But I think it's a great effect. And again, you can repeat that a few times and you can really sort of blast it out. If you want to create a really smeared, really cut image that really reduces it to near enough nothing of what it was, but great for backgrounds and textures, I think this is quite useful. So again, let's just put that back. And the next one. Then we got blast. Now blast, this one, and you can blast, and as you can see, sort of similar to the previous one. You got the blasting effect, and you've got similar sort of things in Photoshop. You've got wind blast effect, etc. And you also can do vertical as well. You get this lovely both direction crisscross, where just slicing it both ways. I think that's quite a nice one as well. And again, you can always again put horizontal down there, and you can see the effect creates that. Now again, you've got horizontal. Let's just again put it to 0. I put it to minus. There you can just see it's purely vertical. Somewhat slightly confusing the way I've done it with the fact that it goes down that way, so you end up with much the same as that. So you just got to be careful, put it to 0%, and then you get that up down effect. And again, you can do the same, just go that way or that way to create an interesting sort of melting effect, I guess is the best way to describe it. We've also got stagger. So you've got an option here for stagger. So stagger creates a bit of a stagger, and you see it's sort of like there's sort of gaps there. It's jumping a bit. So it's not a full-on blast, but you've got a sort of staggered effect. So that's why it's called stagger, I guess. And you can see then click apply, and you can see again subtle change when you apply it to the preview. And again, you can do here, just go for L again, Command Control L, and you can see you get this drag down effect. And again, you can see a sort of break in each time. There's a staggered effect in that. So let's just undo that and then go on to the next filter. Next one, slice. So slice, let's just go horizontal, and you can see it creates a slicing effect. That's what it does, just very subtle slice. Now, you've got an offset. Let's just change the offset. And you can see, again, a lot of these filters are very, very subtle. 100%, it's just a subtle change just by doing that. And you can then reduce that down. Let's go vertical. Sometimes I notice the vertical seems to work slightly better or more intense than horizontal. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just the way I've got the size of the document. But you can see the result there of using the vertical strength. 100%, 100% for the offset. And then click apply. Again, I suspect, oh no, this time it does look like it sort of matches the original, the actual preview, I should say. And again, Command L, and you can apply it again. So you can see you get a sort of like looking for a, I don't know, a window, sort of one of these windows where you've got sort of lines through, obviously rippling through it to create that sort of distortion effect. Lots of these you could probably achieve by using various things in Distort, various distortions or displacements, I guess. It's a glitch thing, is a displacement distortion. And you can see you get that. And again, you could use, of course, pixel filters. You've got the fade, you've also got the repeat, and so on. Sawtooth. Now this one, glitch strength, and you can see the glitch strength again. It's, if you just put it down quite low, let's go for 7%. Sometimes you can push it up to the max and you can see the result of that. You get a very, very intense sort of a sawtooth effect. You can't hardly make out that it is a sawtooth. But if you put it down to say 7 or 4%, something like that, you can see it lower. So sometimes some of these filters, it's better to setting really low to actually get a result, something like this. So you've got a bit of a sort of drift with this sawtooth effect. And I'm just going to click apply, just with that percentage, 3%. And again, Command L, and just repeat the filter. And you can see when I do that, you can now more clearly see the sawtooth effect. Personally, this is what you should be getting from the actual filter itself, just with one blast of it. But unfortunately, for some weird reason, you have to apply it multiple times to actually see the result of this sort of sawtooth effect, which you can see when you do it a few times. Creates an interesting effect. Again, this can be modified by using the pixel filters and fade glitch. But also another great option with a lot of these ones is that you can use this with channels, say. So if you want to, window, and go to, let's go down here, pixel and channels. You could use it in the red, green and blue channel independently to create different sort of effects using the red, the green and the blue. I'm not certain why they didn't offer the options in this one. And I'm just going to undo this now again, because some of them do have that. So let's just go now to, again, Command Control G, bring this up. You'll notice that you have got the color down here. There must be a reason, and I do not know what the reason is. Can't even think of the reason. Please put in the comments below if you do know of a reason why they had to separate them into colors. Personally, I think they could have coded it so you would have a longer panel here and just have a color option here, and then the color features would appear, and then would have reduced the number of types. Would have been much nicer, because then they could of course introduce maybe other ones like circular designs, which they haven't got, or triangular designs, which they haven't got, or a star theme design, which they haven't got, and so on. But instead now, what will happen if you've got all these ones is you've now got a problem. If you get 15 or 20 more added to this, becomes a very long list, and you scroll through the list to find the one that you particularly want. Also, notice another thing is they're not in alphabetical order. Personally, I wish they were in alphabetical order if you're going to do a list. So at least then you know, oh, it's the shred one, it's down here. But unfortunately, you've got shred here. There probably is a reason, but still, it's not in alphabetical order or any order. Let's say, obviously, the one you've just used should be the one that's actually currently selected. Okay, we've got that, the sawtooth, and now distort. So the distort one here, if you go here in Affinity 3, you've got here again, you've got a similar sort of thing. You can see horizontal strength as you do this. You can modify this. You've also got vertical strength. Again, you can see the result of that. And let's just push this down to 0. If I push the vertical strength, you can see obviously vertical. Whereas I do horizontal, it's that. Also, of course, you can have vertical strength and horizontal, so it's crisscross that way. Fortunately, not diagonally. Wouldn't that be nice as well? But still, actually, that's another thing. There's no diagonal feature. Would be nice, but isn't available. However, this filter, I've noticed, seems to work best if you reduce it down. So I've got 2 or 3 or 7, say, and number of iterations, just reduce it down to, say, 8%. Iterations, slightly confusing. It's a percentage. Find that iterations normally is a number, not percentage. So it's slightly confusing, but you can reduce it down. You can see as you go down, you get this sort of result. And you again can modify this and you get a wave effect. Now, you can see it subtly redoes itself, which unfortunately to me always means when I click apply, the result doesn't always match the preview. And again, it slightly changed it. But you can see now you get this wavy effect with that distort. It's a wave distort effect. Okay, so you can see that one. Let's just go again, bring it up. You can go here, distort, and you can tweak these settings again. You push this up here and number of iterations, push it down, and you can see you get this. Actually, that creates a nice painter-like effect. I think that's quite a very subtle, very thin lines. think creates quite an interesting visual effects. Again, you could combine this with maybe another layer, so you could have 2 copies or 3 copies or whatever of this and combine them, use blend modes to actually blend between them to create maybe some interesting effects. But it's a nice wave. Now, I don't think it's as good a wave as I would love to see, and that's similar in some of the other filters as well, as the one that's in Photoshop. I would love to see a Photoshop wave filter in here. It doesn't match it. It doesn't match it in any way, but it would be great if that feature was in here. I think that would be wonderful. Also with some randomization. I'm not certain why I just couldn't add a random button, which is one of the best features in the wave in Photoshop. Okay, next one, shred. So we've got shred, and now we've got all the color variations of these. And you can see you've got some functionality here, vertical, which sort of matches the one without the color option, but you've got this additional bit. Again, that's why I think it would be nicer if they just had a bottom bit that just appeared when you wanted the color. Would have made more sense to me anyway. And you can see you can create color effect, but again, it jumps, which does give me a suggestion that if I click apply now, that you will not exactly see the same response. Another thing to point out, if you're wondering what these are, you've got options here, no split view, which is obviously default, split view, and a mirror view. So you can just click on that and see the effect of that, which I think is quite nice to always do. But personally, I always generally keep it in that. But it's good to actually have the split, I think, to see it if you just go through it and apply. You just move it around and see what the original was and obviously the end result. So again, you've got red, green, blue, and again, you can see green, you've got there green, red, blue, green, red, blue, and so on. Blue, red, green, blue, red, green. I guess that's the order they're doing it. And bidirectional, again, you've got this going in both directions. Again, one of these things that you try and think, you know what, that looks great. Sometimes maybe not. Vertical strength, again, you could just have just there horizontal, or you could go vertical and put that down to that. So you just up, down like that. And again, you've got number channels, bidirectional as well. And number directions, let's put it just down to there. And then you just get, obviously in this case, vertical strength, and you've just got the blue channel being used there. That's the one there, BRG. So blue with a single channel is the blue one is being modified. And click apply again if you want to apply it. So on to the next one, which again is blast. And you can see as you do this, now when you go to some of these ones that color, it remembers the settings from the previous one. So you go here, you're going to go in here to red, green, blue. Let's just put that, push it all the way up to 3. And again, you've got this blast effect. And I've got vertical strength. And again, you've got -100. So it goes up and down like that. And you can see the effect again, red, green, and blue. As mentioned, it's a bit harder to see when you're looking in some of these color effects, the blast effect. It's actually very hard when you go through these. I think you can see subtle difference. You can see a difference. But is it red, green, red, and blue? I guess so. And you can do exactly the same there. And also number of channels, just again reduce down so it's just blue there. Or let's just go to red there, and you modify the strength there and do horizontal. Exactly the settings for this. But again, click apply, and the end result, subtle change, but it is not exactly the same. And again, let's just go through this one. Let's go to blast again, and you notice there's a stagger as well. So stagger, and you can see, get the stagger effect. Let's just turn that off. I think sometimes the stagger effect is quite nice. Bidirectional and stagger. You've got a number of options there along with these additional color settings here, and modify that. And again, put it just to say 20%, click apply, and then Command or Control L if you set the obviously previous one to be up. And you can see now you've got that split, and you can really see a very intense color effect there. And let's just undo those, just go put it back to the original image again. Then we've got slice. So slice, again, horizontal. Again, this is one probably where a good fairly low setting, offset, you can again vary that, and number of channels, you can modify all those settings. And again, click apply. And I'm just going to do that. And then again, repeat it. And then you'll get an interesting effect like that. You can see it just sort of going up in a sort of rows upwards like that. And let's just remove those again. Sawtooth, exactly the same as before, sawtooth, but this time again, colour again. So if you just change the glitch strength, again, keep it low. I think at 3%, you can actually see the actual sawtooth effect. And again, you can modify here the channel ordering, just create subtle changes. Again, very hard to tell. And also number of channels, you can modify that. And again, click apply. And if you want, just use again, repeat it again. And then you can see, of course, the sawtooth effect more clearly there. You can see the sawtooth going backwards and forwards across the image like that. Next one, distort and colour. Again, colour effect, interesting one where you can again push these up to there or just change the iterations, reduce it down. And I think that creates an interesting sort of wave effect. Unfortunately, again, I think it doesn't exactly match the end result. So you might want to push this down, iterations. You can see effect like that, wave strength, again, reduce down. Again, you can vary these settings, create different colour effects. Again, very subtle. You can see now you've got a slight different there. Click apply. And again, sort of matches the end result. But if you repeat it multiple times, you can see it does actually, in this case, create something akin to the Photoshop wave effect. You can see that same sort of pattern that you get in Photoshop wave filter. So you have got that effect. Again, if you repeat it a few times. Now we're on to a different set. Quantization. I can never say that word, so completely wrong. Quantization, something like that. Got that selected, and now you can modify the glitch strength there, and you can see as you do this, again, it's just changes slightly at some point. You can just see it just change, but you get this lovely glitch effect here, quantization. And number of channels, you can reduce them down. If I put this down, you can see then obviously the result is for the red. You can see lots of reds here. If I change it to green and red and blue, you can see a bit more greens, etc. coming in. And also the blue, you can see the blue resulting from that. But let's put the channels up. And this again, it's one of those ones that if you've got obviously a different size document, the result will be different. I think you're going to get bigger chunks of this effect. And click apply. And again, exactly the same, you can repeat it. So if you repeat it a couple of times, in this case, it doesn't seem to have much of an effect. It's like, that's it. That's what you're going to get. Not going to put any more modifications there. The next one, scramble. Again, glitch strength, and it creates a similar sort of thing as the other one, similar-ish, where you've got squares. Again, it would be brilliant if there were circular designs, triangles, stars, a whole range of different, obviously, different shapes in this to generate would be brilliant. But unfortunately, just as squares, and you can see by pushing it to 100% that you virtually can obliterate the effect there. You can see just do that there and so on. So you can create a variety of different designs simply by doing that. And again, you can blend it, of course, you can repeat it again, and that's what I'm just going to do. So click apply, and again, do exactly the same. And you can see as you repeat it, it gets smaller and smaller. So it looks like it virtually becomes great for texture designs, perhaps, to create some interesting texture design, which of course you could use this maybe as a displacement layer with an image. So you could just use that to modify all of these different designs. Can be used obviously as is, but also used as a source for other things. Maybe use this as a pattern layer and other things as well. Then we've got fuzz. Fuzz creates, you guessed it, a fuzzy effect, a sort of noise effect. I guess is a better grain effect, I guess is the best way of looking at it. And I'll push it to 100% again. And it's sort of like the previous one, but this time very fine detail. Virtually can't make anything out what that actually is. And you can still modify the green. And you can see if I go for green, red, blue, the effect, obviously green there, very hard to tell the blue actually, to be honest, very subtle. And blue, red, green, and you can see the result again of that, and again, red, blue, green, and so on. So you can run through those. And I'm just going to put it back there. And you've got here 100% or 0%, or maybe you want a very subtle, maybe a subtle bit of noise, 12%, just to add a little bit of noise. Now, I don't always check that whether the actual filter modifies if you move it around like that, and some of them do. So all it does is change the strength. There's not any additional functionality that comes from doing this other than moving this, which you can, of course, manually do. Personally, find it slightly easier just to tweak it by changing it here than moving it around like here. And again, click apply, and again, let's repeat it. Some of it's great just to try multiple repeats, and I'm just repeating that filter effect. Now it gets to a certain point that it doesn't seem to actually do anymore. It's just created a sort of very grainy, blurry effect with that image. And that's the result of that one. We've got ripple, and again, just modify that, and it's much the same as some of the other effects as well. You get this sort of ripply effect, very hard to tell, and let's just reduce it down. And sometimes that is the thing, reduce it down, say 13, whatever, 16%. I've just pushed it down, and then of course you've got all the same things, color settings, so you can vary the color, though to be honest, very subtle. If I push it up to the max, you can see color does come into it. When you got it down fairly low, say 19%, there's not much color coming through this, so you can vary this. It doesn't seem to have much of an impact. Again, modify channels. It will obviously apply only to that channel. You've got the red channel in this case. So got it here, 3 RGB, and very low setting, and click apply. And then again, let's just go for apply again and again. And to be honest, it just sort of blurs it, makes it sort of, and you can see a little bit of rippling there. I think it's very subtle effect. It's not full on rippling, I think, personally, in that one. And undo that one. Waves. Now, waves I was quite hopeful for, in that it was going to create something a bit like the waves filter in Photoshop, but as seen, you can sort of achieve similar ones in some of the other types as well. So let's just go for strength, and you can see you get a bit of a wave. And again, you've got red, green, blue, so you can vary that again. You go green, see the effect there, blue, red, green, again, vary red, blue, green, and so on. And again, you can modify this, so just go with, in this case, it'd be the red channel. You can push that to 3 again, and glitch strength, and you can push it obviously to maximum there. To be honest, it's very subtle whether it's 100%, just tweak it and click apply, and the end result does actually match the actual preview. However, let's just go for repeats, and you can see what happens then. Then you get a sort of interesting wave effect. I've played it about 10-15 times there, and you can see you do get this wave effect. By varying the setting, I guess you're going to vary the wave, the strength of that. It might achieve some quite interesting, super colourful designs like this. Maybe, of course, if you've got like lines or something. I mean, in this case, obviously I've got an image, but if you've got a line or maybe shapes and different designs, it might create some very interesting variations with this sort of up and down wavy effect, again, with all the colours. So you get like different reds and greens and blues sort of in different wave patterns, I think would be nice as well. And again, this could be saved and defined as a pattern. If you go up here to the pixel and you've got here new pattern layer from selection, you could use that for some interesting results. Again, let's just undo. So waves, let's just push this a bit higher. I'm just going to put it at 59% and click apply. Now do that again. I'm just going to go through it, and you can see the result is slightly different. So it does vary how it applies the wave. Obviously, you can vary it and find out which setting works best for you, whether it's a 3 or 5% or whether 59% is better. So again, let's just undo that. But again, you could combine this, of course, with the options for filters and fade the glitch. So you could combine it. So fade glitch, and you can see then you get a mix of the effect with, say, blend modes. Let's just go here, multiply, and you could create some interesting combinations using that between the different various filter applies. So cancel there and undo that again. Let's just go all the way back. Near the end now, we got warp effect, and the warp is very subtle. Again, here you've got horizontal strength, but you've also got this turbulence. Maybe in some ways would be nice to have had additional options like turbulence in some of the others. So I feel that it creates a randomization to it. I don't know, but it looks like that. So vertical strength, again, you can modify these settings, put them as high as you want. So push that like that, put them to 100%, and you can see you've got this wave effect. So let's just put that vertical strength down there like that. You get that. If you go to horizontal strength, actually horizontal strength and vertical strength doesn't seem to actually move it at all. So that's quite weird, isn't it? So horizontal strength, vertical strength, combined seems to work slightly better. Okay, you've also got this turbulence, and you can see you creates an interesting turbulent effect. You can see, obviously, setting it lower, you get a sort of very sort of nice, subtle wave there, which I think is quite nice. Maybe you want to only just subtle change as sort of the evening wears on. You've got a wavy, whereas obviously the turbulence is a bit extreme when it's got that. If you want a wave design, I think that would be quite useful for that. So let's just say turbulence there and click apply. Now this doesn't obviously have a color thing, but you could use it with different color channels. Channels panel would be another way of getting around that. And again, let's just apply it multiple times, and you can see you get an interesting sort of wavy distortion there, or warp effect as it says. And you can see that. Light streaks is probably one of the more interesting and unusual ones. You can see here you've got horizontal strength and vertical strength. So let's just increase that, and you can see what it does. It just spreads it out. You've got the vertical or the lighting, obviously the highlights there. So obviously it depends on the image. So you've got this, obviously here, you've got the dark areas. There's not such a clear sign of spreading. So let's go vertical strength, and you've got it going out that way. Again, it would be nice if there'd been things like stagger in this, perhaps. And also, in this case, colour would have been really quite nice, an addition, perhaps, because then you could have had the red light moving further, the red streaks, the green streaks and blue streaks. Would have been quite a nice addition, but instead they've left that off. I don't know why. Again, vertical strength, it just seems to be off. And again, you can modify the settings by just moving this up and down. Personally, again, I find it easier just to control it via horizontal strength here than trying to exactly set it using the actual document itself, and click apply. And you can see now it's spread out, but it will be nice some additional controls there, but they're not available. And again, you can apply it. Again, you can see the result of that. You can create some very intense lighting effect, streaking it out like that, very intense Affinity 3 effects there. And let's undo again. And of course, you could do the vertical as well. The last one. So let's just go for the last one. And this one is another odd one. They've just stuck it at the end. I think this is just a sort of like, I don't know. Maybe this was one of the first filters they worked on. I don't know. It's a weird one. Channel flip. You think, oh, that's not really going to do anything, but it's quite an interesting little one. Channel flip, there, you can glitch strength. So let's just push it up. Now, it does something. Even at 0%, you can see the result of it at 0%. So put it to 100%, you can see the result, obviously more extreme. Unfortunately, no randomized feature here would be really nice again. And again, you can then click apply, and you can, of course, repeat it. And then you get that. And you can repeat it again and repeat it again. And you can see you actually get an interesting colour effect just by repeating that single command a couple of times. It creates that. Something that obviously you probably could do with adjustments would be another thing as well. So let's just undo that. Back to the original. Now, again, with the filter, let's just go here again. You can see you've also got channel flip. You've got here, put it to 100% so you can see it, channel selector. So you go for here, one, obviously the green, I assume, blue, and then you got that one, 3, you got a lovely, the inversion of it, and you got there, inverted again, I would say, and something like that. So again, you've got obviously a few options there, all the way through from 0, so 6 options, click apply. And exactly the same as before, if you repeat it, you get that, repeat it a number of times, you get a more coarseness, a threshold-like effect, or posterize, I don't know, something like that. But it's definitely an adjustment effect that you would get from that. So I'm just to undo those. And next thing to do, because the glitch is great, and as mentioned, the glitch can be found also in Pixel, and you can do all the things that we've just been doing with a few additional features here as well. So new live filter layer, so you can distort it and glitch. Exactly the same settings, all the different things, I think. Don't think there's anything different from that. And that's a live layer which you can then modify. But I was showing the actual filter effects. Now, let's just go to another document. And I've got a document here. And this creates, again, with those filters, you can create a variety of different designs. It's obviously not your standard image now. It's more abstract design. But it can be used to create some very abstract designs. So, Pixel. And again, you go down here and you've got the filters. And of course, distort and glitch, or use the shortcut, of course. And in here, you've got here this aberration again, and you can modify the glitch strength, and you can see by just changing that, anything that's got folds or lines, maybe we could apply some blur into it as well to create some more interesting, less sharp cut points of this, the red and green and blue. You can also, of course, modify these, so green, blue. You can see you can get a variety of there. I'm just going to put it back to red, green, blue, 100% setting, and click apply. And play it again. Command or Control L in my case, I've got this. And you can see as you do this, you can see you get different abstract designs, which of course in turn can be again used with Pixel and new pattern layer from selection. And with that, you can create an interesting pattern design super quick using that. And of course you can mirror it, etc. So create some interesting design, just very super quick. And of course you can also apply these filters to this. So let's just again Command G again, Control instead. So you can apply this and you can get this up again, and you can go here and maybe use that again. And you can see as you move it, it doesn't seem to have any effect. Well, because it's still 100%. So, but you can see if you move it like that, it does have an effect. You have to set it to 100%, otherwise, or something, not 0. And you can see then you get a result like that, which I think is quite dramatic. Many ways, I don't know why the default isn't 100%, not 0%. Default of 0% seems to be a bit pointless because you think it's not doing anything. But still, click apply and you've got the effect. Again, and you can repeat that. And you can see as you do that, then you'll get a variety. Now, creates an interesting mirror effect, I guess, which you can then, of course, see repeated there like that. And let's just undo all of that and also remove this pattern layer. But you can see you can create interesting designs with this. And again, you've got this design. Again, you've got the glitch. You can go here and do shred and other effects with these more slightly abstract designs than obviously a standard image. Click apply there and you can see that. Now this time that glitch effect did not change from the preview. Some do, some don't. I'm not certain what the reason is. Maybe it's the size of the document or something. Something happens where it does resize it. So you can see you've got that effect. But you can also use this glitch filter in other modes as well. So let's just do that. I've got a grayscale document here. I've converted it. It was a color document, of course. I've converted it using the document option. You can do that quickly. Just go here and convert format. That's all you need to do. Set it to grayscale. And with this, I can then use the glitch again. So let's just go to the glitch. Now, I'm not going to run through all the settings for this, but you can use this. You can see then if I change the percentage there, again, put it 100%, you can see it creates a sort of slightly unusual effect coming out from that origin point there as you move around. Obviously, there's no color involved this time. It's just purely a sort of effect that sort of repeats the design. You can see those lights. There's that one there. They're all coming out like that. And if I reduce that down, you can see it stretching that direction or that direction. So it's the grayscale in many ways shows you what the function is doing because it's stripped away the color. And now, of course, there's lots of color options. You can go to the color here. Now, of course, there's no color, but you can always go here, green, and you can see it does change blue, red, green, even though there's only theoretically one channel involved. But it does seem to have an effect if you change this setting as well as here, the number of channels here. You can see as you change it, it will result it, even though technically there's only one channel. Seems slightly odd, but you've got here sawtooth, and you can do the same, sawtooth. Again, glitch strength, reduce it down like that, and you can see again that sawtooth effect. All these can be applied in grayscale as well. And again, click apply. I've created a document in CMYK. The results seem to sort of match RGB as well, and I haven't done an analysis between the two, so it's possible there is some variation. The settings, however, if you do panel, and I haven't tested it with lab ones, maybe it does it differently, I don't know. You can move this, and you sort of get the same results. You get the yellows, reds, etc. You'll notice also you've got RGB, even though we are actually in CMYK, which is a bit odd. You think it would change to CMYK. Would be nice if it did, but it doesn't. So you've just got that, and again, you go down to there, and you can go for the greens, blue, and blues there. So that's click there. However, Of course, what you can do is you've got channels. You've got the channels panel, so you can always go to window. Well, let's just go down there to pixel, never remember where it is. It's channels. Here's channels. You can see now you've got composite cyan. So let's just click here. So composite cyan. Cyan is the only one I'm actually working in now. I'm not working in magenta, etc. I've just removed it. Again, pixel, I can do exactly the same. You've got all the filters here. Most of them, I think, work. I don't think there's a few maybe that don't seem to have the option if you're in CMYK. But glitch, you've got that. And weirdly, you get very odd effect then, just when you're that, and you can see you can move that back. Great. So you can create that, set it to glitch strength, or go maybe another one. Let's just go to something else like scramble, and you can see the scramble there. So you could reduce it to maybe 39% there. Click apply. Go to magenta, untouched at the moment because I haven't applied the effect. Again, bring the panel up here, and again modify that. Glitch strength. I don't want that aberration. I want this one. Just go down to scramble. Glitch strength. Let's just push this up, and you could vary it. Obviously, maybe make that 100%. Click apply. Okay, you can see you could do that for each of the channels. Just going to reset it. Please check my other videos on how to use the obviously channels panel. But now you can see the result. A bit of an unusual effect if you want to make a really looking terrible picture. Obviously, you can see that you can work in CMYK to create some interesting effects using the glitch filter, but unfortunately not within the actual glitch filter itself for some weird reason. So that is a run through of the current functionality as of Affinity 3. I think it's 3.01 version, wherever it is, the latest version. Hopefully some additional filters will be added to the glitch filter. Would be really nice. Be nice if many of the other filters had a similar sort of structure where they have additional functionality added to them as well, perhaps. But I think they're great. Please put in the comments below if you've had any issues with the glitch filter. If you found things that you doesn't make sense, please let me know in the comments. It's always great. Also, things that you would love to see in this glitch filter. I think it's one that they could extend. I wish they would change the way the panels are worked by having the colour and the non-colour split. Seems a bit odd, but still, that's the way they've done it. Hope you found this of interest. Bye.